The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Longman Simplified English Series. Read by Surya Thomas. Chapter 14. The Storm. About midnight, Joe awoke and called the boys. There was a wetty stillness in the air that seemed to threaten something. The boys sought the friendly companionship of the fire, in spite of the dead heat of the breathless air. They sat still and expectant. Beyond the light of the fire, everything was swallowed up in the blackness. Presently, a wee flash of lightning dimly lit the trees for a moment and vanished. Another came, a little stronger. Then another. Then a faint moan came sighing through the branches, and the boys trembled, fancying that some spirit of the night had gone by. There was a pause. Now a terrible flash turned night into day, and showed, separate and distinct, every little grass blade that grew above their feet. It showed three white, startled faces too. A deep roll of thunder went crashing across the sky, and lost itself in the distance. A cold breeze sprang up. It shook all the leaves and scattered ashes above the fire. Another fierce flash lit up the forest, and a crash followed that seemed to tear the tree tops right over the boys' heads. A few big raindrops fell upon the leaves. "Quick, boys, go for the tent!" exclaimed Tom. They leaped away, stumbling over roots in the dark, each dashing in a different direction. A furious wind roared through the trees, making everything sing as it went. One blinding flash after another came and rolled upon roll of deafening thunder. And now the rain poured down, and the rising wind drove it in sheets along the ground. The boys cried out to each other, but the howling wind and the roaring thunder drowned their voices utterly. However, one by one they struggled in at last, and took shelter under the tent, cold, frightened, and streaming with water. The old sail boat about so furiously that they could not talk, even if all the noises had allowed them. The storm rose higher and higher, and presently the sail tore loose from its fastenings, and went flying away on the wind. The boys seized each other's hands and fled, with many stumblings and bruisings, to the shelter of the great oak that stood upon the river bank. Now the battle was at the highest. Under the ceaseless flashes that flamed in the sky, everything below, the bending trees, the river white with foam, the dim outlines of the cliffs on the other side seen through the racing clouds, and the veil of rain stood out in clean-cut and shadowless distinctness from time to time. Some giant trees yielded in the fight and fell crashing through the younger growth. The thunder came now in ear-splitting, explosive bursts, pitilessly keen and unspeakable awful. The storm ended with one gigantic effort that seemed likely to tear the island to pieces, burn it up, drown it to the tree tops, blow it away, and defend every creature in it. All at one and the same moment. It was a wild night for homeless young heads to be out in. But at last the battle was over, and the forces of nature retired. The weaker and weaker threats, and peace returned. The boys went back to camp a good deal awed. But they found that there was still something to be thankful for, because the great tree, which had been the shelter of their beds, was a ruin now, split by the lightning. Everything in the camp was wet through, the campfire as well. Here was a disaster, for they were wet to the skin and shivering. However, they discovered that the fire had in so far up that great log against which it had been built that a few inches had escaped wetting. They patiently worked at it with leaves and bark gathered from the undersides of sheltered logs until they persuaded it to burn again. Then they piled down great dead branches till they had a roaring blaze. They dried their food and had a feast. After that, they sat by the fire and glorified their midnight adventures until the morning, for there was not a dry spot to sleep on anywhere around. As the sun grew stronger, the boys felt sleepy, and they went out on the sandbar and lay down. They were soon burned out by the sun, and wearily began to prepare breakfast. After the meal, they felt stiff-jointed and a little homesick once more. Tom saw the signs and tried to cheer up the pirates as well as he could, but they cared nothing for marbles, for kids, or swimming, or anything. He proposed that they should stop being pirates for a time and be Red Indians for a change. They were attracted by this idea. It was not long before they were striped from head to heel with black mud. All of them chiefs, of course, and then they went dashing through the woods to attack the English settlement. Afterwards, they separated into three rival tribes and sprang out upon each other from hiding places with dreadful war cries and killed and skinned each other by thousands. It was a bloody day, and therefore was a satisfactory one. They soon did camp towards supper time, hungry and happy, but now a difficulty arose. Indian tribes at war with each other could not break bread together without first making peace, and this was simply an impossibility without smoking a pipe of peace. Two of the redskins almost wished that they had remained pirates. However, there was no other way, so with as much cheerfulness as they could pretend, they called for the pipe and took their puff as it passed with proper ceremony. They were glad that they had become redskins, for they found that they could now smoke a little without having to go and hunt for a lost knife. They did not get sick enough to be seriously uncomfortable. They practiced consciously after supper with fair success, and so they spent a joyful evening.